Welcome, construction business owners, to this deep dive for the Scaling Legends audience. I'm Justine, and today we are looking at something that might just completely change the entire way you look at your daily operations.
Yeah, I'm Nicole, your co-host and expert guide for today's deep dive, and I'm really excited for this one.
Me too. So to start, I want you to imagine a really specific scenario. I know a contractor who is currently doing about $5.2 million a year in revenue, and he works exactly 25 hours a week.
Oh, wow. Just 25.
Literally 25. He coaches his kid's soccer team. He takes every single Friday completely off. And here's the absolute kicker. His profit margins are significantly higher than his direct competitor down the street.
Right. The guy who is probably doing, what, a fraction of the revenue?
Exactly. The competitor is doing $1.5 million, but grinding until 9 p.m. every single night. And I mean, they're the exact same industry, Nicole. They're bidding in the exact same market, but they are living completely different lives.
It's wild, but honestly, our mission today is breaking down exactly how that contrast happens. We are going to unpack the specific time management, the delegation and prioritization systems that allow these top-performing contractors to cut their hours in half while actually growing their revenue.
Yeah, because the difference between those two contractors isn't that the $5 million guy is somehow, inherently smarter, right?
No, not at all. It isn't luck. It is entirely about the mechanics of how they leverage their time.
But to really understand how to build that 25-hour week, we kind of have to start by tearing down a massive, culturally ingrained wall. Nicole, we need to dismantle what we are going to call the overwork lie.
Oh, the overwork lie is so huge in this industry.
It is, because in construction culture, let's be totally honest with each other here, grinding it out is glorified. I mean, working a 70-hour week is treated like this ultimate badge of honor.
Like you're not a real contractor unless you're exhausted.
Exactly. You are the first truck on the site in the morning. You're the last one to leave the office trailer at night. And that is supposed to mean you are dedicated.
But it is incredibly toxic.
Yeah.
And frankly, the hard math completely destroys that myth. Reality proves over and over again that working more hours does not equal achieving more success.
Right.
I mean, think about the human brain under a heavy cognitive load. Your prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain responsible for complex problem solving, like accurately bidding a massive job or assessing site safety protocols.
The stuff you really can't mess up.
Exactly. And after 50 hours of work in a single week, your productivity per hour doesn't just plateau. Your cognitive function physically degrades. Your efficiency drops by 25%.
Wait, 25% just from hitting 50 hours?
Yes. And it gets substantially worse. Once you cross that 60-hour threshold, decision fatigue sets in so heavily that you are actively doing damage. You're making more mistakes than progress. You might feel like an absolute hero for putting in 70 hours, but mechanically speaking, you are just functioning as a highly inefficient bottleneck.
Let's put that in terms any contractor will instantly recognize. Working past 60 hours is exactly like pushing a dull saw blade through a dense piece of oak.
Oh, that is such a good analogy.
Right, because you can bear down harder on the saw, you can spin that motor faster, but it absolutely does not cut the wood any better. It just burns the material, it ruins the edge of your blade, and, it completely exhausts you in the process.
Yeah, you are putting in maximum physical and mental effort for a terrible, sloppy result. You are burning the material. And the insidious part is that you don't even realize you're doing it because you are so deep in the weeds.
Yeah, you're just trying to survive the day.
Exactly. When you are operating on autopilot just to get through the day, you stop looking at the broader efficiency of your business.
Which brings us to the very first step in fixing this dynamic. We have to look at what you are actually doing all day long. And according to Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report, most owners discover they spend 40% of their time on tasks worth $25 an hour or less.
40%. Justine, just let that sink in for a second.
It's insane.
That is nearly half of your working week wasted on the entirely wrong things. You are, running to the hardware store for a box of specific screws because someone forgot to order them, or you're answering the exact same scheduling question for the third time today.
Or manually entering Lowe's receipts into a spreadsheet at midnight.
Yes. To fix this, you have to perform a ruthless time audit. And I do not mean getting to Friday at 5 p.m. and writing down a rough guess of what you did all week.
Because we all lie to ourselves when we guess.
We absolutely do. I am challenging you to track every single hour for one full week. Keep a notepad in your truck. Log what you actually do, not what your ego thinks you do.
Okay, so every hour is accounted for.
Right. And the moment you see in black and white ink that you spent 4 hours this week playing an unpaid delivery driver, that 40% statistic stops being just a number and becomes a very painful reality.
Okay, let's unpack this. So you have tracked your time for a solid week. You are staring at this list on a Friday afternoon, and you've successfully exposed all these $25 an hour tasks. It is a completely humbling experience.
It hurts a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
But how do you actually measure the financial damage of that? Like, you need a mathematical framework to evaluate what your time is truly worth to the company so you can compare it, right?
Exactly. We call it the $500 hour framework, though the exact number is going to depend heavily on your personal goals.
Okay, so how does the math work?
Here is the underlying formula.
Yeah.
You take your target income and you divide it by your target hours. Let's say you want to make $300,000 a year in personal income, and you only want to work 1,300 hours a year.
Which is what, like 25 hours a week?
Yep, 25 hours a week for 52 weeks. If you do the math, your hours are worth exactly $230.
$230 an hour? That is the baseline.
Yes. So let's look at the mechanics of your day. Every single time you spend an hour on a $25 an hour task like driving an hour round trip to the site just to drop off a municipal permit, you are literally costing your business hundreds of dollars in lost value.
Wow, when you put it like that.
I mean, you are essentially taking a $230 bill out of your wallet and paying it to get a $25 job done.
Yeah.
When you start framing your daily actions through that specific mathematical lens, it changes your behavior overnight.
That makes the financial bleeding incredibly obvious. But Nicole, why is it so psychologically hard for owners to let go of those cheap tasks? I feel like there's almost a dopamine hit to sorting receipts.
Oh, there totally is.
It feels like you were working, but really you were just avoiding the hard strategic thinking that actually grows the company.
That's spot on. It is easy dopamine. Completing a quick errand gives you a false sense of productivity. It is much easier to drive to the hardware store than it is to sit down and figure out why your estimating pipeline is suddenly drying up.
Right. It's the classic founder's trap.
Exactly. And to break completely out of it, we use an operational system called the 3 buckets. You have to take every single task from your time audit and force it into one of these 3 distinct categories.
All right, let's walk through them. What is bucket 1?
Bucket 1 is only you. These are the high-level strategic tasks that truly require your unique, irreplaceable expertise as the business owner.
So like setting the long-term company strategy.
Yes. Strategy, nurturing key relationships with developers or massive clients, making a final call on major financial investments. If you are aiming to truly generate that $230 an hour value, this bucket is where you need to live.
Got it. What is bucket 2?
Bucket 2 is train and delegate. These are absolutely critical operational tasks, but they do not require you specifically to execute them.
Okay, like what? Estimating.
Estimating, building out the master project schedule, day-to-day client management. The mechanism here is that you don't just hand these off blindly, though. You build a standard operating procedure, an SOP.
Right, you train them.
You train someone to do it exactly the way you want it done, to your specific standard, and then you step back and let them execute.
Which leaves bucket 3, the danger zone.
Bucket 3 is eliminate or automate. Routine data entry, endless email follow-ups, generating the same weekly progress reports.
Just the busy work.
Exactly. And let me be incredibly clear about the mechanics of bucket 3. Every single thing in this bucket must be moved off your plate immediately. It is the static noise that is completely drowning out your strategic signal.
But moving tasks to that eliminate or automate bucket requires some pretty drastic changes to how you structure your day. So let's talk about the absolute biggest time wasters out there in the industry: unstructured meetings and constant context switching.
Oh man, meetings in the construction industry can be an absolute nightmare. Most contractors suffer from what I call random meeting syndrome.
Yes, people just grabbing you in the hallway.
Impromptu gatherings in the site trailer that slowly drift into a 45-minute complaining session about the weather or a specific subcontractor. You need to put your entire company on a strict meeting diet.
What does that diet actually consist of? Because people love their meetings.
It is incredibly lean. The operational fix is a 15-minute daily stand-up, and I mean literally standing up. No one is allowed to sit down in a chair.
Wait, really? No chairs at all?
No chairs. The physiological act of standing creates urgency. You go around the circle. What did you do yesterday? What are you doing today? What is blocking your progress? That is it. No storytelling.
I love that.
Then you have one 60-minute Monday planning meeting to align the week. You have zero other recurring meetings on your calendar.
Okay, but hold on, Nicole. Let me push back here. Construction isn't some quiet corporate office job where you can just turn off your Slack notifications and put on noise-canceling headphones.
Yeah.
It is inherently chaotic. A lumber shipment gets delayed by 3 days. The concrete crew has a flat tire and doesn't show up. You have to adapt on the fly. How does an owner actually survive on just 2 scheduled meetings a week without the site grinding to a halt?
That is the exact friction point most owners hit, Justine. And it requires understanding the fundamental difference between a structured meeting and a necessary operational audible.
Okay, explain the difference.
If the concrete is delayed, you absolutely have a rapid 2-minute conversation with your superintendent to adjust the schedule. That is just daily operations.
Right.
But you do not need to block out 30 minutes on a calendar, walk into a conference room, and invite 3 other people to discuss a delayed concrete truck. Everything outside the Monday planning and the daily stand-up should just be a rapid-fire operational conversation.
Ah, okay. You are killing the administrative bloat, not the actual communication.
Exactly. And once you have successfully killed that meeting bloat, you have to tackle the silent killer. Context switching. This is where batching comes into play.
Batching. Okay, how does that work?
Well, context switching happens when you sit down to write half of an estimate. Then you stop to answer a text from a frantic subcontractor. Then you take a phone call from an angry client about a change order, and then you try to go back to the math on your estimate.
And you completely forgot where you were.
Yes. Every single time, your brain switches gears from a macro task to a micro task. Neurologically, it takes your brain about 20 minutes to get fully focused again. It absolutely shreds your daily productivity.
So batching means aggressively grouping similar tasks together.
Yes, you build mental walls. You put all your outbound phone calls in one 2-hour block. You do all your deep focus estimating in another entirely uninterrupted block.
That makes so much sense.
You only do site visits on specific days, rather than driving back and forth across town 5 times a week playing whack-a-mole with problems. When contractors start batching, they routinely save 5 to 10 hours a week just from eliminating the cognitive friction of transitioning between completely different types of work.
All right, so let's say you've done all this. You have audited your time, you know your hourly rate, you are on a strict meeting diet, and you have batched your schedule to reclaim 10 hours a week. The immediate danger here is that nature abhors a vacuum.
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't build a system to absorb the work you just stopped doing, you will slide right back into the mud by next Tuesday. This is why clearing your schedule is only half the battle. The other half is actively building your replacement.
Building your replacement is the ultimate mindset shift. The goal here isn't just to work fewer hours and produce less revenue. The goal is to build a highly functional team and robust systems that handle the exact same volume you used to handle manually.
So where do you even start with that?
There's a very specific strategic sequence to this. Your first hire should always be someone who replaces your absolute lowest value tasks. The errand runner, the basic data entry clerk. You have to buy back your cheapest hours first.
You are completely emptying bucket 3. But there's a huge psychological friction there, right? An owner looks at that and thinks, I can't afford to pay someone $45,000 a year just to do admin.
They think they can't afford it, but they are already paying for it by doing $25 an hour tasks during time that should be generating $230 an hour.
That's a painful truth.
Right. Once you get past that friction and make hire number 1, then hire number 2 takes over the operational middle, usually client communication and project coordination.
And then hire 3.
By the time you get to hire number 3, which is usually a strong operations manager or a lead estimator, the owner should be insulated. They should be working purely on strategy.
And this is exactly where the technology conversation becomes impossible to ignore because, Smart Business Automator's Market Intelligence Report highlights that contractor owners who work under 40 hours per week actually grow faster than those working 60+ hours. And the reason is simple. They make better strategic decisions, they retain better people, and they avoid the catastrophic burnout-driven mistakes that wipe out an entire job's profit margin.
That data point is the core of everything we are talking about. Working less allows you to grow faster because your head is actually clear enough to see the road ahead. And the way you permanently get those hours down isn't just throwing human bodies at the problem, it is leveraging modern technology to handle the heavy lifting.
Which is how you systemize the elimination of those bucket 3 tasks so they never creep back onto your desk.
Exactly.
But Nicole, when you hear the word technology, a lot of contractors might just roll their eyes and think of yet another complicated, clunky software that you have to somehow force your guys in the mud to use on an iPad. Break down what this actually looks like in practice. How does it work?
Well, it shouldn't be another clunky tool. It should function as an invisible accelerant. Let's look at platforms like Smart Business Automator. It functions essentially as a highly trained AI project assistant working in the background.
An AI assistant, like what does it actually do?
Think about how much literal time an owner or a project manager spends just trying to find a specific site photo, or verifying the latest version of a municipal permit, or digging through a wildly messy folder of submittals.
Hours, honestly, hours every week.
Right. The AI tech automatically tags, sorts, and categorizes all of that incoming data without human intervention.
Oh, wow. So it creates a single source of truth.
Exactly. But it goes so much deeper than just being a smart filing cabinet. Let's look at the mechanics of how it handles complex problems. Say a request for information, an RFI, comes in from the field.
Always a headache.
Normally, a PM has to stop what they're doing, pull the old plans, pull the new plans, and manually try to spot the difference. The AI fundamentally changes this. It acts like a highly advanced text recognition scanner.
Really?
Yeah, it physically reads the pixels on the new architectural drawing, instantly compares it to the data from the original bid documents, and immediately highlights any discrepancy in red.
That is incredible. So it is doing all the cross-referencing for you.
Yes, and then it uses the historical context of the project to actually generate a drafted email response for you to review. It pulls the exact spec numbers.
So you aren't starting from a blank page.
Not at all. You are just functioning as the final editor. And while it is doing that, it is constantly scanning for schedule risks. It flags operational bottlenecks before they turn into critical expensive delays. It automatically tracks budget variances, showing you exactly where the money is drifting before you get to the end of the month.
But what about all the separate tools contractors already use? Like, does it just create another silo of information?
Not at all. And this is where the mechanism of APIs comes in. An API is basically just a digital bridge that lets entirely different pieces of software talk to each other seamlessly.
Okay.
Because of these digital bridges, the AI connects directly with your existing accounting software, your ERP, which is the main system you use to manage your day-to-day business, and your field tools. The information just flows across the bridges automatically. The entire concept of manual data entry is completely removed from the equation.
So between the strategic sequence of hiring and letting an AI assistant handle the massive administrative data crunching, you have successfully built a machine. A machine that runs smoothly whether your hands are gripping the steering wheel or not.
That is the ultimate design. But knowing how the system works is one thing. Actually, enforcing it in your real life is entirely different.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the hardest part for most seasoned owners: enforcing personal boundaries and running the stress test.
I've been waiting to talk about this part. We call this the Friday off experiment. If you are listening to this right now and you have implemented even half of what we have talked about today, you have to actually prove to yourself that the system works.
And this is the part people hate.
Oh, they despise it. The experiment is very simple. For the next 30 days, you must take every single Friday completely off. No site visits, no checking emails from the couch. Completely off.
It sounds absolutely terrifying to an owner who is deeply conditioned to working 70 hours a week.
It does, but think of it like a material staging area on a job site. If you give a crew a massive quarter-acre footprint to stage their materials, they will inevitably spread their tools, their scrap, and their lumber over every single inch of that lot. It will be a mess.
Yep, it spreads everywhere.
But if you walk out there and tape off a strict 10 by 10 square and tell them they can only stage within those lines, they suddenly keep it impeccably organized. They only keep what they immediately need.
That is Parkinson's law perfectly applied to construction.
Yeah.
Work will always expand to fill the time or space available for its completion.
Exactly. Your unstructured 70-hour work week is that massive quarter-acre staging lot. You are filling it with absolute junk tasks, the $25 an hour busy work, simply because the time is available to be filled. When you force yourself into a strict 4-day week, giving yourself a much smaller staging area for your time, you only have room for the high-value $230 an hour work. You ruthlessly prioritize. And the amazing thing we see over and over again is that most contractors find they get the exact same amount of meaningful, revenue-generating work done in 4 days as they previously did in 6.
It is a force constraint that breeds operational efficiency. But here is the catch. A 4-day week only works if you have ironclad boundaries the rest of the time. Without strict rules, the business simply owns you. You don't own a business, you just bought yourself a terrible, highly stressful job.
So what do those ironclad rules actually look like in practice?
They have to be completely non-negotiable. No checking emails after 6 p.m., zero work calls on Sunday, period. When you are sitting down having dinner with your family, your phone is physically on Do Not Disturb.
That's tough for a lot of guys.
It is, but you have to aggressively teach your clients, your subcontractors, and your own crew exactly what your availability is. And then you have to stick to it without exception. If you answer a client's panicked text message at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday evening, you have just successfully trained them that you are available to solve their problems at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday.
You are actively training people how to treat your time.
Precisely. If they know for a fact that you do not respond on weekends, they stop asking on weekends. They learn to bring you the critical issues on Friday morning, or they figure out how to hold them until Monday. As the owner, you are the architect of that culture.
This has been such a powerful breakdown. I mean, from auditing your time and exposing those hidden $25 an hour tasks, to setting a target hourly rate, ruthlessly categorizing your work into the 3 buckets, batching your schedule to prevent context switching, and finally leaning heavily on technology to automate the operational noise.
It requires a complete paradigm shift in how you view your role. We have talked entirely about getting your time back today, but I want to leave everyone listening with a brand new question to chew on this weekend.
Okay, let's hear it.
If you successfully build these systems and you buy back 20 hours of your week, do you actually know who you are outside of being a contractor?
Oh, wow.
For a lot of highly driven owners, the 70-hour work week isn't just a business problem, it is a psychological place to hide. When the daily chaos finally stops and the phone stops ringing, what are you going to do with the silence?
That is an incredibly deep question. Who are you without the chaos?
Your ability to step away, to let the systems, the people, and the technology run the machine without you holding it together with duct tape and pure willpower, that is the truest test of whether you've actually built a scalable business.
That is absolutely the perfect note to end on. Listen, if you know a contractor who is dealing with burnout and 70-hour winds, send them this episode. It could save their sanity and their margins. Hit follow on whatever app you're listening on so you don't miss tomorrow's intel.
And be sure to visit smartbusinessautomator.com to learn how to scale your company without drowning in admin.
Remember that contractor we talked about at the very beginning of the show, the one making $5.2 million, coaching soccer and taking his Fridays off? That person isn't a unicorn. That is just someone who consciously decided to stop using a dull saw blade. Go out there, sharpen your systems, and finally get your time back. We will see you on the next deep dive.